Yep. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Coffee Klatch. I've got my travel mug today because actually, many of you know I dictate, and it is a nice day out, so I took a drive to dictate. So I just have been reusing and rinsing this all day.
And I have my owl mug. Very exciting. It has Crystal Light in it again.
I actually have coffee in mine because it's been that kind of day.
I did not have time to brew coffee.
Oh, that's a bummer. So this morning, so because we're terrible and we often use our Keurig, and we have both. Like we have a coffee maker and a Keurig, and it's so not in any way practical to use your Keurig daily. But we totally slide into doing that all the time. And so we had just gotten real coffee, ground coffee, and my husband prefers that. But I really needed coffee fast, and our maker runs really slow. So I made myself a single cup while I was making the other pot. But then when Haven got up, he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm making coffee." And he was like, "You're not though," because the little thing with the coffee filter and the coffee was sitting on the table, and I was just running hot water through the machine. I didn't put it back in, so.
Well, that could have been much more disastrous than it really was.
Well, yesterday I made a little bit of a disaster with the coffee maker because he had cleaned it and he left the carafe full of water, and it's a thermos, so you can't see into it, and so I was running coffee on top of the full. So you can see why I often make myself a single cup of coffee before I make actual coffee. It's a thing. So I also one time did I put my mug upside down under my Keurig.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and ran it. So that was a whole mess. The adventures of living with me. My husband should probably have a show. It's true. So today we are talking about heroes we love to love. And so we'll be spanning our great breadth of love for fictional heroes from TV and movies and books, and maybe some real life ones too. I mean, I think we can take it as read that we consider the guys that we married and who put up with our foibles. Some of us have more foibles than others. Being probably obviously the ultimate heroes, but we'll take that as assumed and talk about other
fictional fantasy
men, because like I said, obviously, we don't mean anyway. We've talked enough about the husbands that I think they should be secure with their place in the. Fortunately, I don't think either of them have ever watched one of these, so.
No, my husband doesn't even have Facebook.
Mine does, but he does not one of the things I love very much about my husband is that he never knows what's going on in the world. Because he does not watch the news or check, he checks his two specific things on, I think he basically uses Facebook for Messenger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. So he never looks at a feed or anything like that. So he's very not, he has that stuff, but he's pretty not on the internet. So anyway, so I was thinking about this last night when we came up with this topic, who my original my original actor crushes were. And I think definitely the first one was oh man, now I forgot his name. It was Richard something from Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, because I was a normal 7-year-old child. I'm looking for his name. No one's gonna know who he is anyway.
I don't know that one.
Maybe it wasn't, or maybe it was Richards. That's his last name was Richards. That's right. Anyway, I can't find it, but it doesn't matter. It was the actor who played Benjamin in Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. Was one of my very original, kind of movie crushes, and I was very young, so it was very innocent.
I don't remember anything that young. I mean, books. I loved Professor Bear and Little Women because I read that when I was like 10.
Mm-hmm. Jeff Richard,
Um,
that was his name. Anyway, go on.
and like the Sweet Valley High books. I loved Todd, whatever Elizabeth's boyfriend's name was.
Vito?
Okay.
Yeah, anyway.
All actors of that era had the same like look. Like I loved Curly from Oklahoma, who's played by Gordon McRae.
Yeah.
And they all have that same.
It's like, it's very square jawed and very, like, it's very masculine. I feel like it's just actually like the romance hero aesthetic.
Yeah.
Is that classic. And he wasn't even really an actor. He was a baseball player. So he's got that kind of I think he's got a very baseball player like quality about him. But,
yeah.
Which is like baseball players are a very well balanced athlete. Some of them have like comical proportions because you have to be like so tall or so, you know.
Yeah.
So your early ones were books.
Yeah. The first celebrity I remember was JTT.
Oh, JTT. I did like JTT.
Yeah. I didn't even like Home Improvement that much. I mean, I'm sure I watched it, but I loved the movie Tom and Huck. Like,
that was a good one.
And then the Alaska one, which I can't remember what that was called. Wild
America.
Wild America. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that one. He was in a spate of movies in that time period, and I was very into JTT.
Yes. For those who are not 90s kids, this is like a BuzzFeed list. 90s kids will know. JTT being Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I think he was like very super much the heartthrob of our little age group there.
Yeah.
Very much. I liked him a lot, but my primary like teen girl, I think I was like 12. Like my very big like teen girl crush was Matthew Lawrence, of the Lawrence brothers, like arguably one of the less famous Lawrence brothers. Like, and when you're
sadly, I know who he is, but it's because that show where they were
Brotherly Love. That was my favorite show. I loved that show, and I was in 6th grade, and I absolutely loved him. I had such a crazy that was maybe the first thing that I identified as a crush.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, like this is kind of creepy. Like, because I don't know this guy, and I have like the same feelings for him as if, you know. But then also right around that same time, I did see Star Wars for the first time and was confused by my feelings for Harrison Ford.
Yeah, that's like one of those ones I remember. And it was the first Indiana Jones movie. And it was on TV, so it was like years after it had been in theaters. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I remember being like, oh, I understand this feeling, and it's in a way that I had not before. Bored.
Oh, goodness. April says Neil Patrick Harris was my first crush on Doogie Howser.
I don't know that I ever watched Doogie Howser.
I don't think I've ever seen it. I did not ever see Neil Patrick Harris until much later.
I mean, I knew he
was hilarious.
I was aware of Doogie
Yes. Stephanie says I've totally been binge watching Home Improvement at night. I actually started to rewatch Home Improvement with my kids. And that has been really fun because they think it's really funny. We're not like doing it consistently. We do like a couple at a time, but it's but that show is like a lot dirtier than I realized.
We have like randomly watched, like we watched a Step by Step a while ago, and there was something else, maybe Family Matters, and I was like, some joke, I was like, well, I didn't get that when I was
yeah. Oh, I loved Family Matters, man. Oh, Rachel says Joshua Jackson from Dawson's Creek.
Oh, my sister would agree. My sister had Pacey and NSYNC all over her wall.
Oh, NSYNC. Oh,
I was like high school at that time, so it was a little like.
I was
cool for that.
Yeah, no, I was 12. See, this is like when you get into that age group, it's just a field of like really regrettable, like bubblegummy crushes. NSYNC had their Disney Channel concert that year. That was like the debut of NSYNC, and I remember watching that so many times. And I think Justin Timberlake was wearing powder blue, like those snap away, like
Mm.
pants that were so cool. Oh man. But I really liked Lance, which I feel.
Oh, actually, my sister really liked, Lance and JC. Like,
Oh, JC. Oh, Luann wants to know, did you watch soap operas?
so I could tell, let's list my many, many soap opera crushes, which were like never about their attractiveness, but more about like their character, because like I do remember Jensen Ackles or whatever his name is, was on Days of Our Lives.
Oh, I love
And
Jensen.
I did not love his character, but I was like, he is actually like objectively attractive, where most soap opera actors are a little like, their acting makes up for the, anyway. I loved Jake and Vicky on Another World. That was like my original TV obsession. I loved Jake. When they broke up, I was so mad. Same for Guiding Light. Gus and Harley were like my favorite. Like, I would tape episodes and watch them over and over again. I did love Days of Our Lives, but I don't remember having like any Days of Our Lives crushes. I liked Bo and Hope, but it wasn't like an obsession as my Another World and Guiding Light ones.
I remember Bo and Hope because my mom watched Days of Our Lives. And so she had it on all the time. So, like, that's the one, because I never did soap operas. But then that's, like, the one that I, like, actually, even just from being, like, walking by casually, that, like, I remember them.
Yeah. I still get a kick. Like, maybe a year or two ago, my mom texted me and was like, Bo's still calling Hope Fancy Face, and John and Marlena are still doing something. And she's like, so some things just never change. And I was like, it's true, because it's been like 20 years since I watched that show.
But Rachel says, if your favorite soap character isn't Dr. Drake Ramore, who even are you? Oh my gosh. That's like right in the pocket of the fandom right here.
I love that storyline though, when like Rachel goes to when he's like filming and she's like in love with all the characters and knows all the storylines. I loved that because that felt very, very real.
But what about Drake's twin brother, Stryker?
Oh, right. Stryker.
Then I remember them killing him off and him being like, and
it had like actual lives actors like randomly on there,
yes,
like to do his scenes. I always loved that.
Was it Brooke Shields that like thought he was his character? Yes. Oh yeah, that was so good. Friends had a lot of like good like crossovers, and like honest, like as much as it's like I can't even be mad at the romance novelist thing because it's just so random and like funny that it was on there. And she also, and her name is escaping me, the actress.
Morgan Fairchild.
And she even hosted the Rita one year.
Did she really?
She did. She hosted the Rita at RWA after she had played Chandler's mother, who was a romance novelist on Friends.
So funny.
I know. Or when he's Jessica Ashley, yes. So good. And Stephanie says soaps were the best part of sick days as a kid, and The Price is Right. The Price is Right for sure. Bob Barker, I was a fan. And but I watched a lot of the really terrible talk shows.
Yeah, I did not.
Oh man. Maury knows if you're the father. I'm just saying. Now, I'd watch Judge Judy if I had to. Like, it depends on how slow of a day it was. That has nothing to do with crushes, but that is like a daytime TV blast from the past. I like to think that we're best off the cuff anyway. So yeah, I'm like, and then, and I remember like when everybody was really, really into Leonardo DiCaprio, and I was not, but I never saw Titanic, and I never like, you know, sorry, Rachel, I'm a Ross stan. He's not my favorite character, but I will defend Ross to the end. But obviously, Chandler's my favorite.
Yeah, Chandler's
because Chandler and Monica are my fave couple. But there was a time in my life where my husband and I did not have TV, and all we owned were Friends DVDs. So we have watched a lot of Friends. A lot of Friends.
I watched Friends the moment it aired on actual television, then plus all the reruns a million times. But I remember like those first couple of seasons, especially like Ross was my favorite character. like I loved Ross and Rachel, like those first couple seasons. I think once you watch it on a binge, like you kind of change that. And obviously, I did think Monica and Chandler by far took over as like my favorite characters. But like in the beginning, when you could only watch so many episodes at a time, Ross was by far my favorite character.
Yeah. So Tracy says, hubby would take me with our toddler son to the mall, met Rusty Shane and some popular ones from Days. I don't know who that is. Just because I don't have my Days. And April says Leonardo was in Growing Pains. I actually know that because I watched Growing Pains.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
I watched reruns of Growing Pains, but I did watch it a lot. And I didn't have like a Kirk Cameron crush, but I did really like his character.
I love Growing Pains. I did not have a crush on any of them. I think I was a little too young to like find that.
I did just really like that show.
But I just really liked that show.
If I had a weird crush from a sitcom from that era that like I would have been like reluctant to call a crush, it would be Michael J. Fox as Alex P. Keaton. Because he was so bizarre, and I like in hindsight, I'm like, I loved that a weird amount. That I'm like, I probably had a little bit of a crush on him. Pivot forever.
I love
that was one of my weird ones that I was like, oh yeah, like in hindsight. And then it was funny because I was watching that show like when it was in syndication, and like I had a friend for a little while who had moved like every so often, like a ritzy family would move like up here from California to like get away from everything. And so we would like randomly have like a fancy person at my school, which was not normal. But so I had a friend for a little while whose dad was like a pediatrician to the stars. And she was like, he was Michael J. Fox's kid's pediatrician. And he was like, he's the nicest guy though. And I was like, so I had this like whole like connection in my head. I don't know.
All right.
Now it's just been too much about Michael J. Fox is what it's been. So.
Well, Penny mentioned Saved by the Bell. I did love that. I absolutely had a crush on
Zach
that.
Tag.
Saved by the Bell. I watched straight through the college years. I watched every like mini series, like the Hawaiian episode,
Same.
the wedding, all of it. I absolutely loved that show.
Oh,
and
Zach and Kelly forever. I loved that show so much, and I did like Slater, but Zach was obviously country music crushes. Oh boy, let's put a pin in that. Because we have some stories. Yes. So yeah, oh man, I love that show, and we cannot talk about Mark Paul Gosselaar without talking about Pitch, because that was one of the best shows I've ever seen, that it only got one season and that no other like streaming network chain like picked it up is a crime. The world was not ready.
And I would like to point out that I had to force people to watch this show.
You did.
Because it was called Pitch. It was on Fox. I don't even think they got a full season. It was like 6 episodes, I think.
It was too short.
Really short. Anyway, Mark Paul Gosselaar played this like grumpy, injured veteran baseball player
with a beard.
And, it was really a fantastic show, and did not get a shot at all. But he was bearded and amazing.
And like there was this woman who was like the first woman to pitch or to like play Major League Baseball. And like she was younger than him, and they had so much chemistry, and it was so good. And like, yeah, if I end up writing like a book that's fan fiction of any show, it will be that one, just to like fix my life.
Yeah, that was a sad travesty.
Ugh. Anyway, so before we get to country music singers, Penny says Dylan, Luke Perry from 90210. Did you watch 90210?
I didn't. My dad and mom watched 90210, so like I kind of knew what was going on, but I was almost like just a shade too young or perhaps immature to like be really into 90210. But if I was, I would have liked what is his name? Not Brandon Priestley. Jason Priestley?
Jason Priestley.
Brandon, I think was his name. I always liked the nicer of the people. The character flaw.
Well,
Bad
so
boy.
Tracy mentioned Eric Estrada from Chips, and I do have to admit, I didn't really watch the show, but I used to watch the intro all the time and think he was so cute. Like, oh man, I did. I thought Paunch was super cute. I watched that show basically just because I thought Eric Estrada was beautiful.
I never watched it.
Oh man, he was cute. Joshua Jackson on Fringe. Oh, I vaguely remember that show.
I remember that show.
Yeah, like when it was on.
Yeah.
And that was like time slippy or something. It was like, but it looked a little like intense for me. Yeah. Oh, did you watch Sleepy Hollow?
No, I mean I remember it being on.
He was super hot, but they like killed off the love interest, so that show. What even is the point?
Yeah.
Made me angry. April says I was a Dylan fan for sure. And I know I'm migrating up through the years, like the things that I can't even like. Some of my stuff is so obscure. I liked Animorphs because I liked the books, and then they made a TV show on Nickelodeon that lasted not very long. And I liked Boris Cabrera, who played Marco on the show, a lot. I do not think he went on to be in anything else. But I also liked, because we've talked about this, I liked that show Higher Ground, which was a Joe Lando vehicle.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and it had Hayden Christensen in it, who I did not like.
But should we talk about Joe Lando?
We could talk about Joe Lando, Dr. Quinn, because Dr. Quinn was an important show in my life.
Yes, and just that his character on Dr. Quinn was like the amalgamation of every like kind of vaguely Western book thing I'd read that had no romance in it whatsoever.
Yes.
He was always that guy, that character type. Only like, anyway, but yeah.
He was great.
He was great.
He was so great. But I have to say I liked, so I'm trying to remember names. Cloud Dancing was the chief though, right? The older guy. So. And Black Kettle was the younger one.
As far as I know.
Yes. I liked Black Kettle.
Yeah.
Like, a lot. It was very shirtless, and I was like, oh my. That was a whole thing. They were very muscular. They were, yeah. But yeah, no, I loved Sully, and I loved his romance with Dr. Quinn, and was so good. That show, though, like when they recast Colleen, and then Matthew's fiance like got bitten by the dog, by like the kid's dog.
There were some bad choices.
There was some soap opera stuff that happened there that got a little bit. Yeah. And he had to like shoot his dog. I was like, really? Like, because Ingrid died, we fridged the Swedish girl. And then
what about Ingrid? Yeah.
Yeah, when they killed off Ingrid, that was terrible. Poor Matthew. Matthew! I remember her saying that.
Oh God.
Like, my biggest memory.
Somebody mentioned Luke. I missed it. As in Gilmore Girls Luke, who is 100% probably the top of all my TV characters ever. He is one of my favorites.
Luke is great. He is straight up, shamelessly basically the guy in my women's fiction that's coming out in a couple weeks. Like, is Luke. It's not even transparent. I mean, it's not even like concealed at all. Like, he is just like a grumpy diner owner. So there you go. I really like him. But I like that like kind of grumpy.
Yeah.
Because he's not mean needlessly, but he does not have time for her nonsense.
Yeah. Or the town. I mean, I love my favorite characters always are like the guys that they're grumpy and they know the right thing to do and they're going to do it, but they're kind of going to complain about it. Like, that is like the whole basis of Early Edition. Like, he like didn't really want to get the paper the day in advance and save everybody's life, but he was going to do it. Like the reluctant hero. That is my favorite archetype.
That is very your aesthetic. So say if we're going to bridge over into music at all, then I would be remiss if I didn't. And no, like very few people are gonna know who this is, because I grew up listening to like contemporary Christian music, so my stuff is gonna be kind of obscure. But I really liked the Newsboys, and I really liked It's Okay, because I have a story though, so that's why I'm bringing it up, because I really liked Phil Joel from the Newsboys, and they're Australian, so that was a whole thing. And I had like, cause I was like, you know, like 15 or something. So I had like a little thing in my diary of like who I wanted to meet someday. And like, he was one of the people I wanted to meet someday. And like one time, like a couple years later, they came to my church to play like a service, and they were doing a concert in town later. They had like a big festival that they were doing. And, I was like standing there. I worked at the coffee shop, and I was standing there like making coffee, and he walked up to my table, like randomly, like I didn't even know they were there. And I was like, oh, this is weird. And he walked up to the table and like got a sugar packet from me and started talking to me and like asked my name. And so I was telling him, and I was like, this is like an out of body experience. It's very strange. And then he was like, oh, are you going to come to the show tonight? And I was like, no, I couldn't get any tickets. And he was like, I'm going to put your name down on my list. So like you can bring a friend or whatever, and then just come up to the front and say that you're on Phil's list. And so I did. So I got to go, and I was on Phil's list. And that was like one of the cooler and weirder things that has ever happened to me. And I was like 17. So I was like, this is the best day ever. And I felt awkward because I was 17 and I was making coffee for Phil Joel. Yes, Rachel, that hair though, you know who he is. And his hair looks amazing in person, I'm here to tell you. But he is also he's very slim. And you know, sometimes you can't tell that in pictures. Like you see models in person and you're like, oh, but like Twiggy though. So then I feel like ungainly next to men who are more willowy. So anyway, yes, some of you knew who he was. Matt Thiessen from Reliant K, I know who that is too. I really loved John Foreman from Switchfoot, and I just had like a whole big like original like Christian music hipster rage because and like poor Mandy Moore. This has nothing to do with Mandy Moore, but people were like, she just sang her song from A Walk to Remember, and I was like, that is not her song. I liked it. I liked that album before the entirety of it was featured on A Walk to Remember, and when it was sung by the original artists, I don't care if she sings it. It's not her song. But all right, we can get out of my niche now. Country music.
You have like quite a few people who know what you're talking about.
I know. I love you guys. You actually know who I'm talking about. This is clearly our people because they're like early edition. Yes, obviously. And Phil Joel. So like we have clearly found. There's a very weird Venn diagram of romance novels, Christian music, and shows featuring Kyle Chandler. So like I'm glad to meet in the middle here. So yeah.
I really can't remember like any musical crushes that I had prior to when we will discuss here. I can't think. I'm not saying that I didn't have any. I just didn't have any.
Yeah. So, and this is a whole thing, right? Because you told me to listen to Dierks Bentley and sent me the music video, I think. At the same time, our agent was like, have you ever heard Dierks Bentley? And I was like, I have had 2 people in the same week be like, have you ever heard him? And so then I played the music video for Say You Do and was literally like, I'm in love. I don't know what just happened to me, but like, I'll never be the same again.
And like, seriously, if you've never watched the music video for Say You Do, it is beautiful and wonderful. And like every interest I've ever had in one.
There's wood chopping. There's isolation. There's a cabin.
There's a plane.
He's flying a plane. It's a melancholy lyric. Oddly, I don't know what Chris Young looks like. I listen to his music.
I do, yeah.
I love his music. But yeah, Dierks is my, like, well, we'll get into Sam Hunt in a second. But I think those are actually, like, a couple of my, like, more serious, like, crushes that my poor husband, like, actually has to, like, hear about because I can't, like, deal with it. My favorite thing that your husband ever said was when we went to the Dierks Bentley concert together. That's a whole story. So I'll start at the beginning, which was that he bought you tickets for your birthday, right?
Yes.
And then did not get the time off for said concert.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I cannot remember who said something first, and I was like, haha, I'm kidding, but I totally didn't just like look up plane ticket prices to Missouri. And you said that he had said, oh, like you should see if Macy would like come. And I did. And because I was flying across the country, I was like, well, let's get better tickets. Because I was like, I had to buy a plane ticket. So it was like, at this point, it's just silly. So we ended up doing like the VIP show for Dierks Bentley. And it was hot and stormy. And I remember we were standing in the tent for that show and welded ourselves to the front.
Like I welded a 8-foot tall man out of the way.
Yeah, and welded ourselves to the front and just stood there. And there was food, and we did not move because we were going to keep our spot like right there in the front. And it paid off so much. I can't even tell you. It's the best. It was the best thing that has ever happened. I don't think I'm exaggerating.
No, it was, I think anytime you have someone that you like their music and perhaps have listened to it nonstop for 5 years and find them attractive, like being like that close when they sing is going to be a pretty amazing.
Yeah, and that was the acoustic thing. And like, so I had actually been to an acoustic thing of his, and I was with my husband, and my husband this was in California. My husband stood in the full like sun for me, and I went off and like drank it's different when you go with your friend. When you go with your husband saves the spot for you and like stood in the heat while I like sat in the shade and drank a Diet Coke. And then like, and he had asked during that show if anybody had any, like I just remember him walking out and being like, oh my gosh, that's him. And he looks exactly like he looks. And it's like an out of body experience to see somebody like that famous.
Yeah, because I don't ever see, like, I saw Bob Costas once at the movie theater, like that's the height of my, like, and it really wasn't that exciting because I was like 16 and I'm like, oh, there's Bob Costas and he's shorter than me, like, cool. But yeah, so that it was very, like, I remember the first time I went and saw Dierks Bentley, I did see him with my husband. And he goes up through the crowd, and he was like some feet away, like actually pretty close, but like not close enough like we were the time he went. But and I was just like, oh my god, like that is like actually him, and he is actually there. And I don't feel like I'm not that impressed by a lot of people, but like that is just such an odd experience. And he's singing too, so it's not like he's just
a whole thing.
Right. He's singing, it's a thing. He has very large hands.
It's true. And yeah, so like I still remember like and then like he had asked people for like song requests because in the acoustic show it's very small, and I could not think of any of his songs. Because I literally, I was like completely tongue-tied. I've never had that happen to me before. And so I was like prepared at the next show to request Black, which he played. Like I shouted it and he played it, and that's crazy. And then he made eye contact with Nicole, who is actually a ghost now. You can't tell.
Who never recovered.
She never recovered from it. That was it. It was over.
His family was like in the background too.
Oh yeah, his wife was there, and like the kids.
It was so weird.
It was so weird.
Right, but it's weird. It was weird.
Yeah, and I still remember and I can't remember like the whole circumstances of it, but essentially, I feel like your husband said like if you were to cheat on him with Dierks Bentley, he would just have to chalk it up to a bad day.
He says that about a lot of things in fairness, like any like sort of thing that you just gotta chalk it up to a bad day.
It's like one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. I also don't believe it, but that's, but also I feel like he was actually vastly unconcerned.
That might be more of it than anything. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's and then, I I do love Sam Hunt, and I have not been to see him in concert because every time he has been in the vicinity of me, I've actually been out of the country. But my friends went to see him, Megan Crane being one of them, who you all know, and she was like, "You don't even know. Like, you just don't even know." Like, you couldn't handle it, and I was actually almost thankful because I feel like she came away from it a changed woman. April says I met Blake Shelton at the Sacramento airport.
I love Blake.
I do love Blake.
I still religiously watch The Voice, and he is my favorite part of it to this day. But I really like his music too.
Yeah, I do too, and actually, like, would staunchly defend his People's Sexiest Man Alive placement.
Like, there are some people that I think, they're not necessarily, like, if you put a picture of them, you wouldn't necessarily be like, wow, they're hot. But, like, it's a charm thing, a charisma thing.
Yeah. I think Blake is one of those people, like, for me, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
I think he is attractive. Like, he is a good musician. Like, he's very tall. Oh yeah, Tim McGraw and Kenny Chesney. I do think Tim McGraw is good looking. I like Tim McGraw. I think I said that to you recently. I was like, I keep all the, like, I had never really thought all that much about Tim McGraw, like, one way or the other. And then, like, all these songs kept coming on my Spotify playlist, and I would be like, ooh, who is this? Like, his voice is so, like, sexy. And, like, and then I was like, oh, it's Tim McGraw. Like, consistently, suddenly, and I was like, oh, I am apparently, like, can't resist Tim McGraw years old. It was, like, a milestone that I hit. And I was like, I get it now. Brett Eldridge. I love his music.
Oh, I love him.
Love him. And yeah, so that's, like, country music is a whole thing. Like, and I love the lyrics so much, and it's so, like for me, so much of it is the lyrics of the songs too, and they're so, like, yeah, it's so good. And Brett Young, I listen to him too.
Oh, he's really cute.
Yeah. I will, like, I definitely went through, so if you, like, speaking of music videos, so, like, definitely go watch Say You Do with Dierks Bentley, because it's fantastic, but also watch Break Up in a Small Town with Sam Hunt, and Take Your Time with Sam Hunt. But Break Up in a Small Town is my favorite.
That's my favorite.
That, like, I don't know what, he's, like, running, and he's got a beard, and he's, like, walking through a burning house, and, like, yelling at himself in the mirror, and it's, like, this amazing mashup of, like, tortured hero scenes, basically, that I could just watch.
It's a great, like, song. I mean, it's a great song with a lot of...
It's such a good song.
Some great lyrics.
Though, like, to change the subject, like, I feel, because I have to say, like, no discussion of heroes that I love to love would be complete without getting into my Orlando Bloom situation that I had when I was 15. Because I was not in a place in my life where I could appreciate Viggo Mortensen. I was at the Legolas age, which is a softer, non-threatening sort of crush.
That is Orlando Bloom.
Yeah, well, he is. God bless him. Well, it reminds me of, actually, our friend's daughter, when Megan and our other friend, like, had gone to the Sam Hunt concert, and they took our other friend's teenage daughter, who was, like, 15 at the time, and she really liked Sam Hunt. But, like, on the car ride back home, she was like, I don't really get Jason Momoa. And they were like, you're not supposed to yet.
It's not. I will say, I remember the first time, I remember the first time I kind of got the appeal of, like, the bad boy. And I don't remember what movie it was, but it was Colin Farrell.
Oh gosh, yeah.
With that accent, and I can't remember what the movie was, but it was just suddenly like, oh right, like, okay.
Yeah, Colin Farrell, I think, is one of my, and it must have been in the same time period. I bet it was a similar.
I can't even remember one movie he was in. Oh, there was some movie called Phone Booth, but I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah.
And then
he
was in something with, like, SWAT team.
I think
I don't remember, like, usually I remember, like, a movie, like that started it or whatever, but I really don't remember his movies. I just remember him.
All I know is then when he was in the Fantastic Beasts movie, it, I would recommend, like, honestly, just because he looks so good in that movie. And I was like, oh, that is really comforting that, like, Colin Farrell has actually, like, aged right along the lines that I would have liked to see. A little gray. He looks so good. And he's got this, like, great coat on and everything. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, the dad from Supernatural. But I like Jensen in Supernatural. I do love Supernatural. That's a funny show because it crosses over. It's got Dean from Gilmore Girls, who is Sam in Supernatural, and not Dean. And Dean is Jensen. Jensen Ackles, man, he has aged well. Because he is very, very pretty. And so it looks good on him. Plus, I've watched him, like, slay monsters for years now. So he's, like, just super tough. And, yeah, but he's my favorite from Supernatural. He is, like, the best. But, yeah, oh, my Orlando Bloom thing was real right around that age. That was the perfect age for that. I was right in that sweet spot. Did you have, like, a high school obsession?
I really can't think of one. Like I think about like what did I have on like my wall, and I had a bunch of Friends stuff because I was just obsessed with the show.
Yeah.
I had a very giant poster of Cal Ripken Jr., but not because I thought he was hot, just because he was my favorite baseball player.
My aunt was obsessed with Ken Caminiti. She had a giant poster on the wall in the guest bedroom.
That is so bizarre. I'm sorry. That is an interesting choice.
I still remember it because there was a giant poster in the room I was sleeping in.
Really? Yeah. Wow. I mean, I did have a picture of Frank Thomas, but again, not because
Who did he play for? Do you
Frank
know?
Thomas or Ken Caminiti?
Huh?
Ken Caminiti?
Yeah.
I feel like at one point he played for the Padres, maybe?
That's why.
Yeah.
My family's all in San Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure I had them. I just don't really like remember.
Yeah. I remember that because Lord of the Rings was like my all-consuming like situation for that 3 years. So that was very like, so that sticks with me because it was kind of like what you were saying about Friends, where it's like, that's what I had posters of and like fan stuff. Like it was bigger than just that.
Yeah. It was
yeah. It was a whole big like defining thing for me in my, like my teenage years. Like it was such a big, and it was so not, I've talked about this a little bit before, but it's like really neither, like not before and not since has any fantasy thing really hooked into me like that. Like it's really not my genre. So it's funny to me that like as big obsessive, like defining things go, that is like probably the biggest one I can think of. Like I liked Harry Potter, but I was older when I got into it. So I just liked it. You know?
Yeah, I will say that my crush was probably Kyle Chandler because Early Edition was my high school years, and also TV Land started showing this old show of his, which was called Homefront, in which he played a baseball player. So like I did have a lot of Kyle Chandler feelings in my high school days, which is usually mine were like weirdly either obscure or older. Like I was not interested in the teeny boppers of my time.
Yeah, when I think about it, like I skipped, like I liked that when I was like 12.
Yeah.
That was like the well, and younger even for Jonathan Taylor Thomas, but I wasn't as into him that way. Like I liked him a lot. I thought he was cute. But like the Matthew Lawrence and all that kind of stuff, like I was more like 12, and then like, but that's part of the problem is that like at the point where I was into Lord of the Rings, like I fancied myself more of an alt type of girl because I was into Pure Country. Kyle Chandler.
Him as a bad guy.
Oh, Ryan Gosling. I love Ryan Gosling in Crazy Stupid Love.
He's so good in that.
But I do not love Ryan Gosling in that way. But I like him. But I feel that way about like Hugh Grant. who I find very charming in many movies, but do not
Yeah.
find attractive at all.
I have not seen Super 8 because it looks a little scary.
Oh yeah, that one did look scary.
Yeah.
Okay, my weirdest recent, and I know you haven't seen this again because scary. My weirdest like recent that I was like I can't explain this is Hopper from Stranger Things, who is like so alpha, and like over the course of the whole thing, I was like, why am I attracted to him? He's like a little bald and like a little doughy and like rolling, but he's like kind of a badass. So you're like, and he's like protecting everybody, and like over the course of that show, I was like, I don't know, like I'm kind of into him. That was like probably the weirdest one in my memory. But sometimes that happens though. Like you start watching something and the longer you like sit with the other one that's like that for me is Jimmy in Shetland. If you guys have watched Shetland, it's this fantastic like Scottish detective show that you basically need subtitles to watch for the like until you get the accent down. It's kind of impenetrable, but it's so good. Jimmy Perez. And you're like, whoa. Like he's not hot, and then you start watching and you're like, yes, he is.
I love TV characters like that, and I probably can't think of any off the top of my head, but where they weren't like attractive until you see them become the character. Yeah. Like I would say, what is that show called with Frank Fisher?
Oh yeah. Yes.
I would not necessarily say he's hot, but in the course of the show,
yeah,
like
Detective Inspector Jack Robinson.
Yeah,
I love him. He's got that like he's got that energy, man.
Yeah,
he's just you know. I need to watch that movie. The Miss Fisher movie is on Acorn TV, which I have because I love British TV. So, that's my other shameful one is Paul Hollywood.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah. And people are always trying to tell me he's a terrible person. He's not very tall. I'm like, I don't care. I really, really don't care. I just
There's just something about the way he bites into a pastry.
There is. And I've been making a lot of bread and like he's in my head. It's like it's very close textured. And I'm like, it is. I'm sorry. But now I kind of know more about bread literally just from watching that show. I realized. I knew how to check to see if it was over or underproved because of watching that show. So I learned something and I love Paul Hollywood. And Penny says Scott Eastwood in The Longest Ride. I have not seen that movie, but I've seen many stills from it, and he is an active man.
And it works for me.
Yes, he has that old school Hollywood look.
Yeah.
That very square jawed, very like tall, kind of broad.
I do think like I love old movies, and there were a lot of like that's what I watched a lot in high school, and I would not say that I necessarily thought any of those men were attractive, but they had a personality. Like I love Jimmy Stewart in everything. I loved Cary Grant, like he's so funny. And Gary Cooper I also loved. And so I would watch anything with those. Oh, you know who actually an old school Hollywood that is attractive? Paul Newman. I love Paul Newman.
Yeah.
Although my mom saw him in person and said he was very short.
I don't want to know that.
I know.
I had to laugh because Luann said Simon Cowell, and that reminded me that I had a really intense, like, secret crush on Simon Cowell when I was like 13 or 14. And I was like, I don't know why, because he's so mean. And I hated him on American Idol, and I hated the way that he embarrassed people. And I'm talking like season 1, like Kelly Clarkson and poor Justin Guarini, man. And like that's what I'm talking about is like that far back. And I just remember being like, he's so awful, but like I kind of love him and like think he's attractive, and like could not sort through that in my like I was not ready for that.
That surprises me not at all.
Does it not?
It doesn't.
Well, what's funny is like my husband is so nice. He really is.
He is.
Because it's like, but it's like from a distance, I'm obviously like compelled by I mean, you guys have read my books, you know. What are you talking? My heroes are so nice.
He's so nice.
I mean,
Especially the Presents one.
especially the Presents heroes. They're kittens. I can't tell. I think my gauge is broken. The current one, I'm like, I think he's like not very alpha. I always say that too.
You always say that.
I do, but like I don't. I feel like I don't have a gauge at all. I blame Simon Cowell.
There you go.
Yeah, so let's blame Simon. It's a no from me. Yeah, so they're in that's a long list of dudes.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm an enthusiast. I could talk about that for a while. It's all good. I'm like, and we didn't even scratch the surface. We haven't gotten into Chris's.
Oh, Chris's.
Hemsworth, Pine, Evans.
I love all the Chris's. Well, I'm not the biggest Chris Pine.
God bless Chris Pine. And I just watched The Longest Hour, which had him in it. And it was actually really good. It's on Disney Plus. And so I think Luann says Howard Stern. I can say thankfully I don't have that one. No, that I always think Chris Pine is really good. Like I really enjoy him in movies, but also he's another one that I'm like, I don't find him that attractive.
I've never seen something where I really liked him in it. I think that's the problem. With all of the other Chris's, I have seen a movie where I loved them as whoever they were playing.
I feel like I would be very remiss though in not spending a minute on Chris Pratt because it just reminded me of my other favorite, and I think you know who, but I'm going to start with Chris Pratt. Because I watched Parks and Rec and always thought that Andy was cute. Always thought he was cute, even when he wasn't in shape and he was kind of a slob. And but he's just so funny.
He's just such a warm character.
Yeah.
He's just really engaging.
And I was like, I don't know why. I just I kind of like him. Like I kind of have a little crush on him. And then he got jacked for Guardians of the Galaxy, I think was the first one. And I was like, I was right the whole time. I felt like the nerdy girl took her glasses off and I knew he was beautiful. I was like, yes. And then similarly, I always liked John Krasinski.
Yes.
Always thought John Krasinski was super cute and really loved him. And then he got in crazy shape and grew a beard for the Seal movie, which I never saw because I didn't want to be sad. So I was like, I'm going to pass on the Benghazi movie. I don't know, because I know how that ends. It sucked. So let's not, so he did all those soldier movies. He did a couple soldier movies.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh. And now I'm like, and it's so funny because I feel like now that's a mainstream school of thought is that John Krasinski is attractive. But
yeah, I will say, having just rewatched The Office not that long ago, his hair in some of those seasons is so bad.
I think his hair was actually the biggest problem.
It is such a problem. But he is such a good actor in that
so
series
good.
in particular. But yeah, I always thought he was so cute and loved him so much.
I don't know that I have ever actually I remember this really clearly. We started watching The Office and my husband at the time worked as a bank teller. But he worked at an in-store branch, so they had to be bankers and tellers, which just is a fancy way of saying you do more work and you get paid the same as a teller does and not what a banker does. So, but he had to go to banker school. And it was hours from our house. And we had one child at the time. And this child's about to turn 14. So that's how long ago that was. And we went with him because they had paid for all this stuff. And we were sharing meals and stuff because they paid for everything. And we got to go out to eat and it was really fancy. But I didn't have anything to do. And our son was 9 months old. So I was wandering around the streets with him in a stroller. Didn't have another car and all that. So then, but yeah, so I was watching The Office on our computer. We had rented the DVDs, and I was watching it on our laptop. And I got to the episode where it's season 2, right, where Jim tells Pam how he feels about her.
2 or 3, yeah.
2 or 3, yeah. And so I had gotten to that point, and I just remember being glued to the screen, and he has the single tear. I don't think I've ever felt more. I was in a darkened hotel room with a baby by myself, and he's like, "Don't say that. I want to be more than that."
It's so good. for a comedy, like some of the like biggest emotional like punches,
Yeah.
they did a really good job with that, and he was so good in that character.
Yeah, I could have a whole conversation of like comedies that do emotion more effectively than dramas, actually, because I have a lot of opinions about that and a lot of TV shows that had like serious gut punch. Oh, Sam Elliott.
So I watched The Ranch on Netflix. Unfortunately, I felt like it got really bad the last couple of seasons, but the first couple of seasons were amazing, and he's the dad in that. Sam Elliott is, and did such a great job, I thought. But he does have a great voice.
He does. I'm trying to think of what I just watched The New Lady and the Tramp on Disney Plus, and he is Trusty, which is perfect.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That was actually a really cute remake. They changed, like, it was actually super cute. It's just like, and like Ken Jeong is in it for like 30 seconds for literally no other reason than to play a doctor, like he does in random. Like, it was just really, really cute, and seemed to me like a lot of people were in it just because it was adorable to be in it. Like, so yeah, Sam Elliott was a highlight. But I always love, actually, that's another, Sam Elliott is totally the mom's love interest in my women's fiction. And that's because of you, Nicole, because you were like, when I'm reading him, I see Sam Elliott. And I was like, let it be. That would be perfect. That works for me. So yeah, that's, do you guys have any like questions for us? Because otherwise we'll probably just see you on Tuesday, which maybe we'll do another writing thing Tuesday since we, or maybe we'll do tropes. I don't know. We'll see.
If you have suggestions.
Yeah.
Preferences.
We're in charge. We can do what we want.
Yeah.
Totally. So yeah, I guess we will see you all on Tuesday. Thank you so much for watching us talk again. It has been, yeah, more love for Scott Eastwood. Can't say enough about the jawline. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I have to. Henry Cavill, The Witcher. And Mando from The Mandalorian. How can we not have that?
They're so recent. We're not.
I know. It's like I was casting my mind way back, but I have to tell you, having just watched The Witcher, there were moments in that show where I was like dumbfounded by his beauty.
Yeah, he's amazing. And I don't know, like I don't always think he looks like, sometimes he's almost too pretty, and like
he is. He's almost too pretty most of the time.
But in The Witcher in particular, he is, and I do think he's a really good actor and like really embodies that role.
Yes. I mean, that I liked him a lot as like I actually liked the Justice League movie. Because it's like it's Jason Momoa and Henry Cavill, and like I actually like Ben Affleck as Batman. I liked that movie. I thought it was like, it's cheesy, but Ezra Miller is the Flash, and like it's and the guy who plays Cyborg, who I'm like, I actually know who Cyborg is because my kids watch Teen Titans, so I felt like I knew who they all were, and I thought they were great and funny, and Henry Cavill was like angry Superman, and that movie worked really well for me, and I thought he was good in it. But otherwise, I haven't seen him in a lot of things. I've just seen pictures of him.
Yeah.
And I was so, like, honestly, the wig should be terrible in The Witcher, but I think it's the thing that, like, makes him not so pretty. And plus he's, like, killing things constantly. It's the, and, oh, man, like, he's so hot in that, and, like, so tough. And The Mandalorian was extra weird because you don't see his face. And actually, when they did show his face,
he was in the guy who plays the Mandalorian, who you see his face for what, like 5 seconds in the whole season. So you don't see him, but he was in Game of Thrones as a side character in the early seasons, who gets his head like smushed like that. So yeah. But so I knew what he looked like, and I did not find him that attractive in Game of Thrones because he's kind of greasy and anyway, just didn't work for me. But like, so I actually knew what he looked like, but still, something about the way he acts in that.
I know.
It's like,
he's like a whole thing in that. Like, he's just like, this is the way. And I'm like, okay, I've never been more interested in Star Wars in my life. Like, apart from Han Solo, basically. It's actually a really great show.
Yeah. And there's a Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda's so cute, and I'm only human. He's so cute. And I'm really, like, I sat down with my husband to watch that show and figured I would ignore half of it. I actually figured I would ignore most of The Witcher, too.
Same, yeah.
And I ended up loving them both. Like, being absolutely, like, The Witcher was the first show that I hadn't, like, just been, like, knitting to for a long time. Like, I watched that show. Oh, and Virgin River. Now I'm, like, flashing back to all the great TV that I watched a couple months ago that isn't on right now.
It won't be.
He is a great example. What's his name? The guy that plays Jack.
Martin Henderson.
Martin Henderson. He is a great example of a guy whose attractiveness, like, goes like this the longer you watch the show.
Yeah, it was like, oh, I don't think he's really kind of, and then
he's like 1,000-yard stare. His eyes are amazing.
He has beautiful eyes. Yeah.
Oh, Luann asked, you have so much comedy in your writing. Do you watch stand-up comedy? I do. My favorites are, my favorite is John Mulaney, I think. He has this obscure bit where he impersonates Harrison Ford in The Fugitive. And it's so weird and so dead on. And I find it hilarious. It's like a long, drawn-out story about how he met Bill Clinton, but literally it only exists so he can tell this, like so that he can impersonate Harrison Ford in The Fugitive. I think he's hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I love stand-up comedy.
I do not.
Somehow doesn't surprise me. So I will say the hardest thing for me is always finding someone who is not super vulgar. Because I do not, like, there's a line for me, and it goes over really fast. Like, I like Ali Wong, like, 60% of the time. And then it goes, like, way too far for me.
But vulgar reminds me of our other mutual crush.
Oh, yeah! Okay, we'll have this moment, and then we'll go. This is one of those ones that I was like, oh, dear.
Another thing I thought I would just not pay attention to while my husband watched.
And honestly, the first episode, I was like, I don't know about that, but this is weird. So the show is called Letterkenny, and it is a Canadian show, and weirdly, so my brother told me to watch it, and I am very close with my brother. I love him very much, but he, like, watches South Park and all kinds of things that are way out there for me. He's super irreverent. He is not offended by basically anything. He's got, like, no limit. Like, nothing offends him. And so a lot of times when he recommends things to me, I'm like, I don't know. Like, he's got a high tolerance for language and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't know that I'll be into it. So I didn't watch it. And then I watched, like, the first 10 minutes of one because he kept telling me about it. And I was like, I don't know. And turned it off. And, but then I started looking up GIFs for the show. And I was like, oh, he's going to be a whole problem. So I don't want to go there. I don't want to get into it. And then you started watching it, which I thought was so weird.
So weird. But one of my husband's friends told him to watch it. And so he started watching it, and I was there. And, yeah, I didn't pay that much attention to the first episode. But it's just, I mean, it is vulgar. It is incredibly vulgar. But it is just so odd that you kind of, like, have to watch to figure out what the heck is going on, and then you really do get drawn into the characters in the TV show, and the main character is quite attractive.
Yeah, he really is. So Jared Keeso is the actor. Have a Google. And have a Google. I think the reason I like that show, if I had to, like, try to nail it down, is that it actually treats its characters with a lot of, like, empathy.
Especially small town characters, which is hard to find.
So there is something that is actually incredibly heartfelt about it. It is not, it's kind of gently poking fun at something, but it's not like satire, which I think can be so, like, bracing and unkind.
It kind of reminds me of Parks and Rec.
Yes, I would say it's like vulgar Parks and Rec.
Right. There's a lot of bad language and a lot of inappropriate sex. Like, that is the difference.
Like, I cannot watch that show with my children anywhere nearby.
No way.
No. But it is, So I don't know why. Like, I really cannot, except that I've been thinking a lot about it. And I'm like, it does respect its characters. It does treat them with a healthy amount of care. It does have, because I think one thing that I like, something like South Park, like, it holds nothing sacred. Like, it loves nothing. It just wants to tear everything down. It can be really funny. But like, for me, that doesn't work in a show because there's nothing is safe, nothing is sacred. And I think in Letterkenny, that's like fundamentally not true. It's like the family unit is, the town is, like when somebody else is unkind to someone in the town, they're all going to rally around them. So there's something that has a lot of heart and warmth, I think. And Jared looks like Dirk Bentley. Are we that basic? Yes. The answer is yes. So anyway, that's our very long list of heroes that we love to love. And we will see you all on Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.